Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Richmond Guide Travel Talks. My name is Jonathan. I'm your travel guru here, and in this episode, we'll be discussing the fourth of the Disney Cruise Line fleet, the Disney Fantasy. But before we begin, a little bit of an announcement to make. With 2024 fast closing out and the holidays are around when this episode comes out, I have been up and down with making episodes, but there is a plan coming along with future episodes coming up. Now, we are almost done with at least the ships that I've been on for the Disney Cruise Line. For those of you that do know, Disney Treasure just recently started its maiden voyage. I have yet to be on it, but at some point I will get on the Disney Treasure. Our next episode will be the Disney Wish, and then after that, we're going to have a long string where we're going to be talking about the Royal Caribbean fleet, and I can give you guys an episode dedicated just Icon of the Seas, which I took this past Thanksgiving, and it was phenomenal, but I'm going to save that for later until we get to talking about Icon of the Seas. But moving forward, let's go ahead and talk about the Disney Fantasy. So the Disney Fantasy, just like her sister, the Disney Dream, are exactly the same size, but they were sailing about a year apart. So the maiden voyage of the Disney Fantasy was on March 31st, 2012, and its size is about 115 feet, 1,115 feet long, about 121 feet wide, and still 18 decks, with 14 of those being passenger decks. Exact same size for passengers, 2,500 double occupancy, 4,000 for full capacity, with 1,458 crew. Now, the Disney Fantasy also has the exact same horns as the Disney Dream. So you have your 7 standard that we talked about, having When You Wish Upon a Star, makes no difference who you are, Pirate's Life for me, An Actor's Life for me, A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes, and the others as well. But one thing that the Dream and Fantasy both have, and you probably see some videos of the Disney Treasure did it, whenever they're in New York, they play Frank Sinatra's New York, New York. Now, this ship has had a very consistent itinerary when she came out. After she visited New York and then came down to Florida and took over the week-long cruises, she was only doing 7-night Eastern and Western Caribbean cruises. Now, occasionally she would go to a couple of random cruises, but most of the time it was just the 7-night Eastern and Western. As soon as the Disney Treasure arrived, Disney Treasure took over Fantasy's itineraries of the 7 Eastern and Western Caribbean cruises. Now, the Disney Fantasy does 3, 4, and 5 nights out of Canaveral and visits Castaway Cay, Nassau, and also visits the new island private destination of Lighthouse Point. But coming this summer, in 2025, she's going to be moving to Europe. She's already done her dry dock, but she's going back to Europe, and she's going to have a summer vacation there. And she's going to go out of Southampton, Barcelona, and Rome, and see the Mediterranean, and go out of Southampton to go to a few different places as well. One of the things I did not talk about that differs the Dream and Fantasy was something huge technology-wise that they brought to the Dream and Fantasy. Oddly enough, they did not bring it to the Wish, but on the Dream and Fantasy, they brought moving artwork throughout the ship. So whenever you would walk past, sometimes the artwork would start moving. So like on one of the decks, you would have these 2 images where it was pirate ships blasting at each other, or one side's a pirate ship, the other side was a stronghold. And if you move past one of them, it would start firing at the other. They also introduced an interactive game called the Midship Detective. And this is where you could go to the midship. I believe it was on deck 4 you could get it. It was either 4 or 5, one of the two. And you get this QR code card that you would actually start this whole detective agency. And you had to figure out where the lost puppies went, or whatever whatever you had to sleuth out. And you interact with each of the different artworks throughout the ship, either in the forward or the aft elevator shafts. That was just one of the cool features that they added to the Disney Dream and Disney Fantasy that I didn't get to bring up. But let's actually talk about a few other things that, I mean, most of this ship is very similar to the Disney Dream, just some differences, including the one of the three main restaurants being now the Royal Court on Deck 3. Very similar in style, just a different name and a little bit different flair. You have Enchanted Garden also on Deck 2 midship, and the Animator's Palette. Same exact thing as the Disney Dream, in which you can have two different nights if you have two nights in there. One night would be a Turtle Talk with Crush, another one you become an animator. So pretty neat overall. They still have the Cabanas Buffet. You still have Flow Cafe, which is on Deck 11. You can get Luigi's Pizza. You can get Tomater's Grill. You can go to Fillmore's Favorites. They do have a upcharge suites location called Suites on You. I believe this is going to be changing names when it goes in, when it went into dry dock or goes into a little bit of modification soon. But you also have the Frozone treats and the ice cream treats are also on here. Now, the stores are very similar as well. You've got the traditional ones, Mickey's Main Sale, Whitecap, Sea Treasures, all there on Deck 3, which is right in front of the Walt Disney Theater. We'll talk more about the theater. There's also Bulgari is on here, and you've the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique is hiding. You also have Shutters, and you also have Carriage Jewels. So here they call it Carriage Jewels instead of Carriage Jewelers, which is right next to the D Lounge, which is a common place for everybody to go and play different games and stuff together. Now let's talk about the kiddos. So in the kiddos, you have your traditional ones. You have It's a Small World Nursery for under 3. You have, for the kids, you've got the Oceaneer Club and Lab, which also has Andy's Room and Millennium Falcon on here. Now on here, compared to the Disney Dream, the Edge and the Vibe are separate. So the Edge is for those that are from 11 until 14 years of age. This is up in the stack on Deck 13. Yes, Deck 13 in the midship stack when you go all the way up. And then you also have the tweens are on in the Vibe from age 14 to 17. This is Deck 5 forward with that sneaky staircase on Deck 4. So if you're ever walking around and you're trying to figure out where that one staircase goes on the outside deck on Deck 4, you're like, where does this staircase go? It goes up to the Vibe. Now, they do have a pool there. They have a bunch of different things there for the teens. Now, the adults, still, you have the specialty restaurants of Paulo and Remy, and you have the Meridian Lounge. These are all up on the upper decks. Now, the adult district is different here. It's not called the district. It's called Europa. Still the weirdest arranged bathrooms. I looked at the deck plans again, and it's still the weirdest arrangements. But here you still have the Skyline Lounge, which it changes the skyline every few minutes that you get to see different city skylines. You have Ooh La La. You have La Piazza. You have the Tube, which is the big location in the back. This is open to everybody during the day, but at night it's adults only, and you can have some dance parties there. And the pub here is the O'Gill's Pub. If you recognize, O'Gill's is the same name as a pub on one of the other ships as well. So he started to get more condensed on the names for the pubs. You still have Senses Spa, which is up in the front of the ship. You got the massive rainforest room there. You've got the Quiet Cove pool and cafe and bar that is up on Deck 11. And then on this ship, you have what's called the Overlook. This is not adults only, but it is a area that could be roped off as a private event area up on Deck 14. This is on the Dream. They actually changed this and the Edge into one stateroom called the Dream Suite. Now, on the Wish and Treasure, the Tomorrow Tower Suite or the Wish Tower Suite, they have different names on each of the ships. On here, the Disney Fantasy still has the Buena Vista Theater, just like on the Dream, where it's actually a 2-deck theater on Decks 4 and 5 midship. You can see first-run movies and other classics. You have the Funnel Vision. You also have the Walt Disney Theater, just like on the Dream, in which this one is a 2-story for the decks 3 and 4, where deck 3 is your orchestra level and deck 4 is your balcony level. On here, they have one show that is exactly the same as on the Dream, and that is Disney's Believe. Now, the other two shows that they have on here is Disney's Aladdin, a musical spectacular, and Frozen, a musical spectacular. Now, I didn't see these shows on the Disney Fantasy. On the Disney Fantasy, there was actually a different show that I had seen on there, but I'm going to be honest, I don't remember much of it because it's been 12 years since I've been on the Disney Fantasy. But continuing on the outside, you've got Mickey's Pool, Donald's Pool, the Funnel Puddle, Nemo's Reef, Mickey's Slide is there, and you have the second of two aqueducts, which is based on Huey, Dewey, and Louie. It is the 3-story water coaster that takes you 20 feet over the side of the ship, and this is the second Goofy mini golf on any Disney ship. You also have sports simulator, basketball court that can convert to anything you want to do. I know they've been converting it over to like pickleball and stuff lately. And of course, the thing that is on every single Disney ship, Pirate Night. So Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique switches over into a Pirates League to allow the kids to get all decked out in their pirate gear on that night where they blast fireworks into the air. And it's a fun celebration of dancing and firework and just celebration. So overall, the Disney Fantasy, there's not a lot of differences between it and the Disney Dream. Just some modifications when they built it just to give a little bit of a different flair. Just like a twin sister would have a little bit difference between its other twin sister or brothers. As for the Disney Fantasy, that is pretty much everything I have to talk about her. Hopefully I can book a cruise on the ship at some point soon, but with her going into some interesting itineraries, I may not have that opportunity, especially with having to fly out to Europe with some of her summer itineraries. But other than that, that's what I've got for you guys today. I hope you guys have a great day and great holidays. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and also on X, because I know I've seen some people following on there, and YouTube. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe buttons on those. And I will see you guys in the next adventure. Bye-bye, everybody.